Welcome folks. So in this video we're going to talk about PCG now and implementing our PCG system. So in the previous videos you saw that we created filters for these from data assets and then we could filter them within the blueprint itself. Now we're going to move over to PCG to do the same effect. However, there's a few things we need to do first. One of which is for all of our assets that we want to be able to modify, you know, the stones or the trees and things like that, what we need to do is make sure that those have particular tags associated with what we want. So if we want to be able to filter this by trees, we want to be able to perhaps these have a tint for the material effect here. Whether it's an exterior one and even whether we want to be able to filter to do transform properties, like have a random yaw in, you know, so the trees could be rotated about their z-axis. For the interior, similar kind of thing. We would have this where we could filter out by whether these is a crate or not, its variation, and perhaps whether it's an overall interior asset. And again, you can kind of see how we can sort of filter these things out. I've also got filters for things like the lights and for the decals as well, as part of this, the statue, exterior elements, again, go down this, the dome, all these sorts of things. Now you can go take this as far as you like, just in the same way as the data assets as well. Again, I would recommend perhaps thinking about it in terms of variations or perhaps overall control. Because once you filter something for an exterior, you know, perhaps you're not going to be able to filter it for rocks as well. It perhaps won't be showing up. And what we want to do is create point data for all of the geometry that's here. Now, where you've got things like decals, like over here, the issue you've got is that the decals won't be represented when you create PCG data from your level instance. So we've got a bit of an issue there, that we've got some lights in here and we've got some decals in here that we want to be able to take across into our PCG. But the problem is they won't be captured. The other issue is that, you know, you can see here from some of the decals that we've got location data, rotation data and scale data for all of these decals that make their application to sort of what they're being applied to, whether it's the, you know, whether it's the position of these assets in the world, whether it's their, you know, their rotation for the sort of the side of the building maybe, or the back or whatever they are. Now, the other thing that we can do with these as well is we can equally sort of tag these with the type of decal they are. So whether it's a dirt decal for dirt, or whether it's a decal for perhaps the pattern or something like that, we can tag those in a similar kind of way, really, across all of these things. Like you can see here, a dirt decal for this big dirt effect on the inside. Oh, excuse me, I'm just cutting those away. There we go. Okay, that's all good. So then what we want to do is be able to capture that in PCG data. Now, the way that we're going to do that is we're going to take all of those, the general information, the position, rotation and scale from the decal where it's been applied, and turn that into geometry data. How are we going to do that? Well, quite straightforward, really. What we're going to do is we're going to basically make some simple cubes where those decals are applied, and we're going to take the location, rotation and scale data for that decal and apply it to a cube, and therefore we can extract that later. That will be taken through into our PCG data, and we can extract that and use that when we spawn a decal in PCG. We can use that later on. Now, what I would recommend if you are going to do this is to create an Editor Utility Widget like this that can copy the transforms between actors. It's a fairly straightforward a straight utility widget. Essentially, all it does is it gets selected actors. So you would select your decal in the first instance, and then your cube in the second. And what this does is it basically gets the length of that and says if that length of the array is 0, you've not selected anything. If it's more than 0, then you can get that asset information. And this returns none to its sort of readout. I'll just run this so you can see an Editor Utility Widget. So once you've got two elements selected, so we've got a cube here, excuse me, a cube and an asset, then you can see that it should run those. Let's just refresh the selection. There you go, we've got our data cube, a decal damage, and a damage here. Now I actually named the cubes as well to match the type of decal it was. So there was a decal damage and 01 and the type of texture that was related to that as well. So all of these decals, the damage 05 for example, they all have the, if we go through into our material elements, where are you in here? Decal. These always have the fifth material instance, so I could, I can extract that just from the name dam05, for example. What I also did with those as well is I also gave those a tag for those cubes to have the same information. So damage 05, decal damage 05 tag would relate to the type of material, or the decal damage 05 material decal that I want to actually use, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do in this instance then is I've got my decals. Let's just have a look. Grab this. If nothing's selected, it returns none. And the same thing here as well. If there's only one thing selected, the second text is none. But assuming something's selected, essentially what it does is it will get the actor labels of index 0 and index 1, so the first and second elements selected. It gets their labels and turns those to a strings and outputs them in there. Which is all well and good. And then what we have basically is when the button is pressed, the Edit Utility button is pressed, what it will do is it essentially returns the length of the array. If that array is 2 or greater, if it isn't, it'll output an error to our editor window. But assuming it is, essentially it goes through those array, and for index 0, it will take its transforms. It will get the actor's transforms, and that will be set as the if it's 0, it will get its transforms, as you can see here, and that will be the source transform. And then what it does is it will plug that into the target actor of actor 1. So if it's above 1, come this way, get the current actor and set the transform to 1. So you've got this nice utility that will then update as things sort of go along, really, and start to create a really sort of straightforward sort of function for building our assets. And we can go through, and basically this tool speeds up, drastically speeds up how we can apply one element to another, which is quite nice. So if I had a cube and a cylinder, and I run this widget, essentially I refresh my selection, cube and sphere, copy transforms, and you can see it puts those together. And I use that to copy all those decals around my entire level, and I call those data cubes for everything. So I'll go and get those for data cubes. There we go. You can see we've got those here as well. Let's just do an unhide all, visibility, show all. There you go, you can see those around our level. And I did the same for the lights as well. The lights actually were represented by a sphere in here, this light sphere. So these are actually created at the points where there's lights. So again, I can filter those out. Those light spheres have a light tag on them. So that's all well and good. So once this is ready to go, and then obviously saved as a level instance, what I can do with this is this building level instance 6. What I can do with this is right click, and then from my asset actions, create PCG assets from level. And once I click on this, it will give me an option to save this somewhere. Like I can save it in this levels, and it will create a PCG data asset, and that's going to be the data for all of the elements in our scene. Now in the next video, what we'll do is we'll have a look at how we can then apply that data with all of the rest of our assets in our scene. such that we can start building from that, and we'll start to build that into a blueprint as well. So I'll see you in that next video.